So let's talk about Miracle a little bit more. Obviously, he's our I'm Home Ambassadog. We've known him for a few years, but for the listeners that don't know much about him and just saw him for the first time on the stage of Britain's Got Talent, can you just tell us a little bit more about his journey and how that you've spoken about him before as being a very broken little dog.
Yeah.
This amazing survivor who loves the limelight. How tell us a little bit about that journey.
Yeah. I mean, I think, going back all those years, I followed a woman on social media who did a lot of animal rescue. She's responsible for rescuing hundreds and hundreds of animals that have then found adoptive homes all over the world. So she done an amazing job. So I used to follow her work, and she posted this picture of this dog hanging from a truck. Everybody assumed that the dog was dead. She did too. So she took a picture that I think was really something that she was going to document as being another victim of the illegal dog meat trade at that point. And then to her surprise, the camera flash caused him to open an eye. And at that point, there's so many animals on board, so many cages, that it's impossible to get these dogs out quickly. So they have to use a crane, believe it or not, and get the dogs lowered onto the ground. From there, the dogs are then released into what I can only describe as a barn or a cattle hole type building. And it's feeding troughs and big buckets of water everywhere. And it's basically survival of the fittest. And Miracle obviously was not in a good way. I mean, he was at the point where he looked as if in that photo he was winding down. I think he'd just given up, and he had the weight of other dogs on top of him. He'd got wedged in between the bars because he'd obviously at one point tried to make a bid for freedom, and the odds were against him. So once he was released, he was then in amongst around 3,000 dogs at the time. Because at that point in Thailand, the shipment of dogs that were going back and forth that they were trying to get to Vietnam to sell to the butchers and sell to the local restaurants, these trucks were either every day or every second day, and you were talking 800 to 1,000 dogs or more on board. It was a huge money-making process that was going on there, and he was part of that chain. So the dogs were released. They were in this cattle hole. There had been various different interceptions that had taken place, so trucks had been stopped, many dogs' lives saved. But I'm sure everybody can realize that when they're crammed like sardines into those little cages, that many of these dogs don't make it. And for me, that's something that I find so heartbreaking, because the ones that have been saved, if the others had just managed to hang on that little bit longer, they also had their chance at having a future. So that's something that always, I have so many of these pictures. There's about 160 of those pictures documented from that particular rescue. And I have scrolled every photograph, and they still make me so emotional because I remember all their little faces, because I think every face deserves to be remembered because they were once here and they fought to survive, but they lost their fight. So I think that that is the sad reality of the dog meat trade. It's a situation that once those animals are freed from those cages, they've then got to try and survive in the proximity that they're in. They're still at risk. The main thing is that they normally pick up distemper. Most of these dogs over there suffer from blood parasites, immunity deficiencies, and then you've got the stronger dogs that are going to pick on the weaker dogs, and you've got dogs that are falling sick. We've now got 4 dog meat trade survivors. 3 of them all actually, believe it or not, spent their time in the same place that Miracle did after rescue, though at different times. So they were all in that same vicinity, in that same cattle hold.
Okay.
So it's something that's always been, I'm not sure if it's something that they would allow me to do, but in future, I would actually love to visit that place, because for me, there's so many memories in my dogs, and I know that their little paw prints have walked that whole area, or hidden corners to get away from others and stay out of trouble, which I think is exactly what Miracle would have done. But to me, that place, there's a lot of ghosts there, you know, and I think for me, it's something quite poignant that I would love to go and visit with the rescuer who actually physically rescued Miracle and my other 2 dogs from there.